Hello, my name is Sally Pinto, and I'm the Program Director for the Yonkers NORC, Neighborhood Naturally Occurring Retirement Community. We serve seniors 60 plus in Northeast Yonkers. We are under the auspices of WJCS and the Yonkers Office for the Aging. We also have a resource specialist and a nurse on staff. We conduct virtual programming in partnership with the Yonkers Public Library on a daily basis. Enjoy the program.
Kind of started because I wanted to show that when you draw the head of the bunny, only one side really matters, and that's this side. The other side we're going to end up covering with its ear. It's going to flop down. So that's why I just drew like a little wonky. You can just do whatever here, honestly. It doesn't matter. But essentially you just kind of want just around, boom, almost like a chipmunk, like how or like a squirrel when it has something in its cheek. It starts kind of inwards and then you make its cheek and then it goes in. And then this is going to eventually be like its nose/mouth. And you just, as you swoop in, you go up and you make almost like it's the tail of a dolphin. And this would be leading to the body of the dolphin. And then this, the only part that really matters on this side is this bit right here, the bottom bit. Everything else after that is going to be covered. And then we have the eye after you're done, which is just 3 circles. That's it. This is going to be a not realistic drawing. It's going to be very much like a cartoon. So that's why we have a ginormous eye. So once you're done with that, I'll give you guys like another 30 seconds to finish up with this, and then I'll continue. Cool. So on this side, just so that we can erase whatever you did over here, we're going to start with the ear. And the ear is going to be like this, going over it. And then this part gets erased. I ended up outlining this in black, just so it was easier for everyone to see, so I can't erase it. But everything that's in the ear is going to get erased. Actually, can I erase it? No. And then once you make this shape, then we move on to this side. Make this shape. And then this is going to eventually go inwards. So once that is done, we should have this. And this is optional. This is going to tie in later with how its fur is going to be. So if you want to do this, and we'll do that later with the fur, go ahead. But if you want it to be a bit more simpler, then you can disregard the little foofs. After we do this, though, we are going to draw its body. So first, we're going to start with the left. We're going to go down like that. Just a little diagonal line. And then we'll go like this, and that's an arm. And then we can go down the other side and do the same thing. That's another arm. And then this right here, it's going to be its belly. And then we'll start on the far. Actually, no, we'll finish up these hands. Not hands, but front paws. Oh, you can't see that. So when I draw, where I draw these lines in, instead of just going straight across and cutting it off, I'll go down, curve in, and then go up and then down. So I'll be going like this, up, and then down, like that almost. So then it has like that little, this little gap. So it looks like it has, so its little, I guess, fingers would look a little more defined. And then we'll just do the same thing on the other side. There we go. And then after that, we work on its back legs. You're gonna wanna make almost like the shape of an ear. And you do that on both sides. And then its back feet. And the back feet aren't going to be level with the front feet. It's going to be, if you can see, like a centimeter or so above, just because foreground. And then it's going to be the same thing with how we went up and did like almost little like W shapes. It's going to be the same thing right here where you go up and then keep it going. Could be the same thing over here, up, and then close the shape, like so. And you should have this. And that should be easier to see. Next, the hat. You can kind of see it, but it's going to be a big hat. I'm just going to do this because that's going to be where the hat is. It's just going to be going up like that, and up diagonal. Curve it. Curve it right here. And then with this, we don't want it to be like that. We want it to be more like how one would draw a tree. Because, I don't know, it looks more interesting and more floppy, which makes it look more realistic, I guess. So you want it to be curved. And that's the shape of your hat. Next, we'll just do the belt that goes around the hat. So you want to extend this out from the hat as if it's wrapping around it. Like that. And then you erase where the belt overlaps with the hat. Is it called a belt? It's kind of like a belt. Next, we'll make the buckle. And this, instead of making just a flat square. Again, it's going to be more curved, but more like that. We want more curvy, fluffy, not floppy, I mean fluffy, but floppy. Just because it's going to be more cartoony. So we don't really like to have straight edges when we want to draw a cartoon because they want to seem more animated. And then where the buckle went, we erase this. But then to finish the buckle, we create a smaller square inside. Or a smaller rectangle, sorry. And then with this hat, we're gonna have it kind of flop up. So at the bottom here, we'll start going, but then about halfway through, we'll flop it up and then blend it in at the bottom. And then you can close it with a curved line like that. But start the line, don't have the line connect with the line that we made with the hat earlier. Have it start a little bit more up and then slightly curve it up as you then bring it back down and then connect it with over there. So yeah, that's your hat. And then here it is darker, maybe easier to see now, depending on what you're on. It's a little more difficult to see.
Why?
Where was I? Next is going to be this is the part that I was talking about before with, we could just leave it with how it is. You don't need this, you don't need anything else, and we could just go to color. Or you can then add little hairs that basically stick out. We get rid of this line and we stick it out, and I'll show you what I mean by it. And then you can decide whether or not you want to do it, how much of it you want to do. I'm not going to do it all here because it's going to take a really long time. Not a really long time, but we don't have enough. There's not enough time allotted to go through the entire rabbit. So essentially, I'll show you with the eye. You kind of want a few hairs just going on top of the eye, coming from its face and then going onto it. So you would start it behind the line that we created and then kind of like that. And then you can, and you don't want to make it a sharp like that. You kind of want it to be more like that, where it's kind of hard to see the difference, but you see how this one kind of curves and this one's more just, while the tip curves inwards or outwards, depending how you look at it. That's kind of what we want to do with the hairs, so they don't look like we just took hair gel and went, you know? So, and we can have them going in different directions. So how these went this way, then we may have one that wants to go this way. And you would want to do that. And then you would do the same thing throughout. I'll show you how I did it, and then I'll leave it here, and then I'll let you guys kind of mimic it or do how you please with it. And then here we do the same thing almost. And then right now it looks like, oh, like it's kind of weird. After you do that, I can't erase it here, but you would erase the line that it's overlapping, the part of the line that's overlapping, and erase what you drew onto the ear. And you would just keep this area right here. everything that shows up here, you keep. Everything that it overlaps or ends up in here, you erase. And then if you accidentally erase too much, you just redraw it back in. So anything in between, you keep that. And yeah. And I'll show you how I did mine, like this. Just to give it a little bit more dimension, so it's not so flat. This is how I did mine. You don't have to do it exactly like this. You don't even have to do all this. It's your rabbit. But if there are any questions as to how I got to this or how I decided where I wanted to stick it and whatnot, like put the hairs or the little fluffs, you can ask me. So I'm just gonna leave this here for, I'm gonna leave this here for like a minute or so. And again, I did the same thing as I did over here. I had this shape and I just kind of, not this long, you want it to be kind of shorter to make it seem more like it's growing from the ear and it's just ending up out. So you want to do like little things like this and then erase everything that's on the inside or over. And then you'll end up with something like this. And then also another tip that I have, kind of with how this started out more outwards and this kind of went more inwards. When you find anything in nature isn't like perfectly like gonna end up in a perfect shape. So this, his ear in terms of its fluff kind of is more fluffier up here than it is down here. And it kind of just gives it more of like a realistic, I guess, growth to it. So have fun with it, basically. You can add some to over here. I didn't. I was running out of time when I was drawing this. I will say with this, though, you don't want hair coming in. I mean, you can have hair. You could have a really fluffy rabbit. You know what? Yeah, have at it. That's what's fun about this. You can make it, when we color it, you can make it whatever color you want. When we're making how fluffy it is, mine is a little bit more on the shorter hair side, but you can do whatever you want. So right now it's just free play. You can make it like mine, you can make it similar, you can make it completely different. I'm just giving you the basic tools to work with, essentially. So yeah, I'll leave this for a few minutes, let you guys work on that, and then at around, in a few minutes, we can start coloring it. And if you have any questions, by all means, I'm here to listen. I'm here to answer.
Phil, can you talk
Wow,
a
that's a
little
nice
about
rabbit.
shading? Because I love the outline, but can you lead us through some shading now and some, figuring out how to give texture and depth to our bunny?
Yeah, so right now we're not gonna do any shading actually. The shading, since I'm gonna color it, you don't have to color it either, but it would be the same principle if you're just using graphite. Yeah, since we're not shading now, and I'll walk us through it as I'm coloring it in. But right now, the depth or the more three-dimensionalness to it is going to be the hairs. That's what we're focusing on right now.
Okay, cool. And when we're drawing on our own and when we're trying to like draw a bunny again or another animal, you always, like, you started with the eye, right? With the outline of the mouth and the eye. So is it a good policy to like figure out one part of the animal and then start from there and then build out?
Yeah, so a lot of the times whenever you're making either like a person or an animal, you want to start head down. And you don't want to worry about any of like the serious details, like how I drew out all the shapes and then afterwards went in and made the hairs. You don't want to focus on the details. You want to get your base shape down. And if you're drawing something like architecture or an environment like a wooded area or like a mountain, with that type of scenery, you want to draw the biggest thing first and then kind of model everything else after that. So this is just more of like a cartoony type thing where you have a giant head, you know, it's wearing a hat, big eye, right here, big eye. But yeah, I'd say for the most part, it's the same principle with anything that you draw. You want to start with the biggest thing first, or you can start with whatever, just as long as you're able to then visualize how you want to model everything else after it. Yeah.
Great. Breaking it down like that really helps a lot. I had a couple people in the private chat ask me questions, and there's one more question. For drawing in pencil, we noticed that you have a clicky pencil, one of those clicky pencils, but there are different types of pencils to draw. So they could draw with like an HB pencil, like a regular school pencil. They could draw, right? It's all up to you. It's just the difference of the point on the pencil, because this pencil with the little mine in it, like the caillou we call it in French. So the little lead, it's more circular, and you just have to click to get it to keep coming. But the other ones, the point can be a little thicker, correct? If you're sharpening it.
Yeah. So if you're ever like seriously drawing something, like when I used to be in graphics and we would have to draw stuff, I wouldn't recommend using a mechanical pencil like this. This is just what I had on hand. You normally want to, not the worst thing, but something that's good, but the lowest quality is just a regular number 2 pencil. That's good for just like if you want to like quickly sketch something out, or if you're making a thumbnail of something, which is just a small quick sketch of something, just so you have your thought on paper. But there are specific drawing pencils, HB pencils, and you can find like HB6, 4, 2, and it's really, and that is how you would control how dark it is, because basically the higher the number, the darker it is. Yeah, so if you're seriously drawing, I'd recommend that you get a set of drawing pencils. They're pretty inexpensive depending on the brand you get, but you shouldn't really be buying really expensive pencils. But if you just want to draw for fun and just, you should use like a number 2 pencil. Just usually mechanical pencils are lighter than number 2 pencils. They would be like a 1. So I don't really recommend, and they're also very fragile. So let's say like you do need to make something darker, you can't really press down on it and you can't really like press at this angle because it's very thin, so it'll just snap. So using like a wood number 2 pencil is the lowest that I would recommend, and then getting a set of drawing pencils is the highest.
Great. And the last question we have in the chat before we move on to the next part of the drawing is about erasers. Because, you know, you get so many erasers out on the market. You can get these white Staedtler erasers, you can get the pink erasers, and you can get like, there's one like that looks like a sugar cube that like looks, so there people are typing in the chat to me. It's very amusing to look at these wonderful descriptions of erasers. There's one that's kind of a light beige and looks like a sugar cube. So all these are different erasers. So in your experience, can you just talk a little bit about the differences in them? And, you know, the eraser that we get on a regular pencil is probably, you know, it's very small, and, you know, it's a regular eraser on the end of the pencil. So for art, it's, you know, there are differences.
Yeah. So again, like the most basic that you can go with it is like the pink eraser that you would use for school. And there's nothing wrong. Same thing with the number 2 pencil. There's nothing wrong with using that. There's nothing wrong with using like the trapezoid shaped pink eraser. But the next level to that would be, they're usually white and they're rounded, just because with the pink eraser, if they come in like that trapezoid shape, they kind of like flop around a lot, and you can't really get like a precise like erase when you need to be super accurate when erasing stuff. Like with this, for example, with how we're erasing very, very little amounts, it would be very important to be very precise. So usually like they can either be very thick or very thin, and they're usually round and white. Then like usually the tan ones, those can be kneading erasers, and they're usually like clay, and they're not used to erase things, they're used to smudge things, which would be which is a technique of shading, which is just basically like, which you can also do with like your finger, or I forget the technical name, but it basically looks like a pencil wrapped in paper, and that's essentially what it is. It's just paper wrapped around itself a lot, and then you use that, and then you'll smudge a blender, yeah. And then use that, and then you'll smudge what you're drawing, and then it'll make like a smooth shadow. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with using the basics. I'm using worse than that, and you can still have fun with drawing. And in the end, unless that's your job, in the end, that is the most important thing. So if there aren't any more questions, we can start coloring. So I'm gonna just start with the head. And I was very limited to what we have in stock. So I'm just using a tan color, but you can really use whatever you want. It was the closest thing to a light brown, which is what I was kind of shooting for. And in the last one, with shading in general, you want to start really light. The lightest tone that you were going to use, that is how you want to start it off. Maybe a little hard to see, but I am coloring just because it's a lighter color. You just want to lightly go through it, and then afterwards, with whatever base color you want to use, make your bunny red. You can make it blue, or you can make a green bunny, especially for St. Patrick's Day. So I'm just going to kind of quickly go through this. And then once you color the face, then the areas that we're going to keep light. Also, if you have like a white gel pen, you can usually use those and make, or like even a black gel pen, you can make whiskers, because right here is going to be like where the whiskers would normally come out of. But this area we're going to keep light. We're going to keep all of this lighter, the same tone, the area going around the eye, only on this side with the ones that are going over, and then the area around the nose. So I'm going to start on this side again, just making it a little darker. And then have that. And then kind of go around like this.
So we have a question about how much pressure to exert.
Sure. So I usually like to do things in 3 levels. I'm going to keep going. I usually like to do things in terms of like when I'm shading something in 3 different levels. So with this one, the lightest one, you just kind of want to like lightly, like you're barely like touching the paper type, where you're just kind of lightly going on it. This, you put a little bit of pressure, still like kind of holding it like this, but you're going to see when we get to this part just to show like the bridge of the nose, just to give it like a little more pop. This is going to be the darkest. So that would be when you more seriously press on it, and you'll see the contrast, and then you can decide based off of that, with the colors that you're using, how hard you can press, because it really does differ based off of what you're using. But you don't want to press down super hard, because then you won't really have room to make contrast. And then if you realize like, oh, this color looks, or this shade looks too similar to this shade, or this one I could make it a little darker and it'll still look different from the darkest one, you can then go back and then go over it again and make it darker. It's all about experimenting. I'm going to turn this sideways because it'll be easier for me. And then this is going to be the darkest that you go right here with the face, that is. Kind of like how I visualize it, at least. I like to think of it as like when you would have those coloring sheets and then they have the number, and you have to fill in based off of like what number paint or what number the color is. You kind of want to think of it like that, like 3 would be the darkest. And then like you can have 2, 2, 2, you have 1 right here, 1 right here, 1, stuff like that. That's how I think about it. If that helps you. Then it helps you. So I'd say like this is roughly what we want to have done with the face. We'll do this ear next because this ear is pretty simple. We'll just go again with our lightest tone, the same color that you're using for the face. And then we can do these parts. I kind of want to make them the darkest, like that. And then we'll just kind of color those in like that. And then we'll have a little bit of dark going here. You don't want to make this the darkest. Actually, you can make this the darkest, yeah. Just if you do make it the darkest, don't make it so blunt. Like here, I made this like kind of too dark. So then I'll kind of go over it with my second darkest shade and then make it sort of blend in. So it's not such a drastic change because you don't want it to look too blocky and not enough blended. You want to have a transition so it looks more natural. This. Next, we will work on this here. And this, we're gonna, just because we're a little short on time, I'm just gonna do what I'm gonna have light, because this entire ear is gonna be mostly darker, but this side is gonna be light. And then you want to transition this into your second going on third. So as close to third as you can get without it being the third, basically. And then you're going to have your darkest right here. And then I'm going to just try something here. So with this part, this is going to be more like transitioning to the inside of the, yeah, I guess like more towards the inside. So I kind of wanted to make this one like a little bit more darker. So I just lightly went on with brown and then did the same shade that I did over here down here, just so it kind of looks a little bit more different. So it's not so like bah, bah, bah. Since we're using this color, actually, I want to finish up with the head. So I'm gonna do the eye. And this one, you'll just be going around the little hairs that you made, and you'll be doing your darkest shade of brown. Well, I'm making its eye brown, but your darkest color going around this rabbit, this eye. Like so. And then with the same brown, I'll draw this on just so I can show you. I want to have this kind of more like, yeah, like that. I want to have this area lighter just to show some contrast, as if like a light is shining on it, be from right here. So I'm going to color everything with that, everything but that, like my second darkest. Just going to be going around the pupil here. You don't have to draw that line. I was just showing so I can, I just drew that so it was easier to show you guys how I did it. I'm going to go back again because I realized that I can make it a little darker. Okay. And then same thing right here. And then here, it's going to be the lightest that you can go. Like that. But then you also kind of want to blend it in. So it's not a drastic cut between shades. So like that, kind of. I'll just erase this line. And then for the inside, I'm doing black. So right here is going to be the lightest just because it's part of this lighter bit. And then the rest is going to be just a black for the pupil. Like that. And that's the head. Next, we are going to do this nose. Well, it's not the head. We didn't finish the nose. The nose, I'm just doing black. So I'm just going to quickly go through like this. The mouth, the same thing. And then like that. And then I'll just do a little bit in between these hairs that I made, but I kind of want to like do a little bit here. And then we'll go in with this one, the same color that I used on the head. And I'll do my second darkest going right here. And then transition it to my lightest. And then I will kind of make it darker here. And here. Like that. But then also make it so that it's a little more. And that's its little belly. And then we'll do the arms. This is going to be, what I'm doing right now is like my second darkest. That's going to be the second darkest, going kind of like that. And then everything else is going to be your lightest. I did it a little bit out of order because I realized we're running out of time. And I want to be able to show you guys how I did the rest of this, so then you can mimic it if you choose to. Next, we have this arm. This is going to be my darkest. And then we're going to transition that to second darkest, but only slightly, like afterwards, just so then it can blend into our lightest. And then we're going to have darkest here and lightest. And those are your arms. And then the feet, or the front paws, I'm just going to make those the lightest. Actually, we have the darkest here. Then after we do that, we'll do these back feet, or these back legs first. We're going to have darkest transitioning to second darkest. And then going into the lightest. And the next, I'm going to do this foot because we're already over here. Darkest, going to second darkest, going to lightest. Like so. And we're basically just going to mimic what we did over here. Take this and flip it. The same shading pattern. Darkest going to second darkest, going to lightest. Darkest, going to second darkest, going to lightest. And that's the bunny. And then the hat. I'm just going to show you what I did over here for my hat, because I don't think I'll be able to run through it all with that. I just took this one, what I had on hand, this yellow green, and kind of just did lightest going like this, second darkest for the rest of it, and then this is the darkest because it kind of flips up, and usually the bottom part would be darker. And then this I have first the lightest brown, and then going to second, going to darkest, and then the gold buckle. And that should be your rabbit. Yeah. If anyone has any questions or wants to show off what they did, this could be it. Since I just showed you what I did there, I'm just gonna quickly try and do it here.
Hello? All right, I just want
So Phil, someone's asking about a question about the background. Do you want to have them maybe put a blue sky or something?
Yeah, I didn't. But if they want to put, they can do like a field going behind them. Like that. Not like that, but like just similarly. Yeah, you can put a sky, you can put like a pile of gold going behind him, whatever you want. I didn't specifically do a background, but you can place your rabbit wherever you want to place him in the world.
Maybe a rainbow behind him.
Yeah, you can do a rainbow. And we're done. Your rabbit.
Hi, everyone. This is Z from Yonkers Public Library. Thanks so much to Sally Pinto and Alexis and Barbara from Newark. Thank you to our community partners, WJCS, the City of Yonkers Office for the Aging, Westchester County Legislator Ruth Walter, Friends of Crestwood Library, and Yonkers Public Library for making this phenomenal partnership. And we thank each and every one of you for being part of our wellness community. Be well, stay well.